kaora kaora. Como te kaora kaora. Tēnei te tangata puhuru huru. No i tiki mai whakawhiti tērā. Upane ka upane. Upane ka upane whiti tērā.
Ngāti tō rangatira trace their origins to the Tainui canoe, captained by Hotorua. Conflict with Waikato tribes over land meant that the Tainui-based iwi Ngāti toa had to withdraw. After many battles, the tipping point, the Great Battle at Hingakaka, almost decimated all the great chiefs of the iwi. Threatened by extinction, the waves of change were on the rise. The response to this challenge was to leave their homeland in the pursuit of a safe and more prosperous home. Under the leadership of Te Rauparaha in 1820, Ngāti toa left Kawhia. The first migration, Te Heke Tahutahuahi, translated to the Firelighting Expedition, was the beginning of the exodus from Kawhia to Taranaki. The second migration, Te Heke Tātaramoa, translated into the Bramblebush migration, describes the difficulties they faced on the second leg of the journey from Taranaki. They would be joined by 3 Taranaki tribes who allied themselves to Ngāti toa. The entire migration Te Heke Mairaro, translated to the migration from the north, would see the rise of Te Rauparaha and the prosperity of Ngāti toa. They would eventually settle in the lower North Island of the Cook Strait region, Raukawakawa, south to the Kapiti coast and eventually to their stronghold, Kapiti Island. During the 1820s to the 1840s, Te Rauparaha's reach extended out to the top of the South Island to Te Tauihu, and Ngāti toa prospered in trade and generated wealth, land and mana. The vast area dominated at the time stretched from Rangitike to Wellington, across Te Ara o Raukawa Moana, Cook Strait, from Nelson to Waido. Ngāti toa would again face challenges with the confiscation of land, forced sale of it, and the kidnapping and imprisonment of Te Rauparaha under Governor Grey and the Crown. The passing of Ngāti Toa Claims Settlement Act 2014 provided the opportunity for the iwi to set a new course for its future. Against all odds, Ngāti toa is thriving. It is a strong, vibrant and influential iwi, firmly grounded in its cultural identity and leading change.
To begin, I'd like to just refer to the title of my presentation. I've been blessed in these last few days in your land to be taken to different parts of the country, to meet with some of the good people of this land. I've been treated very kindly and respectfully, and I wish to reciprocate and extend my own aroha and love and respect and humility back to all the people, beginning with my brother Waimua and John, who came to Aotearoa to talk to me and my people, and I'm very grateful for the invitation that's been extended to me and to George to come here today and to share some thoughts. My title, the 2 words in particular in the title of my presentation I just wanted to focus on is of course the Indigenous case study. So what I'm going to share with you is from the perspective of Ngāti toa as a small tribe in Aotearoa. It's nobody else's story, it's our story, but it is a indigenous story. And then the second word at the end there, sovereignty. In our language, we use a few words that are similar in meaning to sovereignty. Mana motu hake, self-determination. So the presentation and the thoughts I'm going to share with you today are uniquely Ngāti Toa's story, and it is deeply rooted in our determination to exert our rangatiratanga, to exert our mana, our chieftainship over our destiny. And that's the story I'm going to try to tell you today. Nope, that one. Oh, yeah. To begin, though, I would like to just spend a few minutes talking about the history of my tribe, my people, Ngāti Toa. Because the best way to know about a people, a person, is to understand their whakapapa, their genealogy, their history. Then you understand why they say what they say when they're standing in front of you, right? And our story, like the story of the people of this land, and in fact the story of indigenous people all around the world, is a story that has many chapters. And those that have already been written are in the book. They're done. And it's worth reflecting on them before we talk about the chapter that our generation is writing today. So just 2 or 3 slides, I just want to share some thoughts about our past. This man here, Te Rauparaha, is the great taniwha, the great, I don't know the English word for taniwha. Anyway, he's a great, activist. yeah, a great leader of our people. And he led our people south, as you saw in that little video. And under his leadership, our iwi took control of the vast lands of the bottom of the North Island of Aotearoa and the top of the South Island. Which one is it? That one? Oh, okay. That one. Okay. As was alluded to in the video, having achieved that state of prosperity and power, by the time the British decided that they would sign a treaty with the tribes of New Zealand, not many years after that, as a consequence of illegal dispossession of our land, illegal acts of all kinds, my people were progressively impoverished over the second half of the 19th century. So that by the time my grandfather was born in 1903, there was less than 100 adult members of my tribe left alive. We were largely landless, and it wasn't a good time. And it wasn't unique to Ngāti Toa, it was similar all around Aotearoa. And that situation prevailed for most of the 20th century. My grandfather's time, my mother's time, until the 1970s when I was a teenager. And then we saw the beginning of a renaissance, a time of reawakening, of courageous and determined effort by ordinary Māori people of all kinds on the ground to reclaim a little and then a lot of what had been lost. And that renaissance progressed at pace over the next 20 years. by the time we get through to the late 1980s, Ngāti Toa has commenced a process of negotiation with the New Zealand government to resolve the historical treaty claims as a consequence of the illegal acts of the New Zealand government in the 19th century. That's not working. All right. In 1989, Ngāti Toa established a charitable incorporated society as a legal entity in anticipation of reaching an agreement with the New Zealand government for a resolution of our historical claims and as a vehicle for receiving assets that would be negotiated to settle those historical claims. I commenced my role in service of my people in March 2020. My predecessor, Sir Matsurei, had worked for 30 years tirelessly in negotiating with the Crown, with the New Zealand government, and he was tired, and it was time to retire. And so he handed the taiaha, the spear, the weapon to me to carry on the fight. At the time I commenced, our runanga, our iwi organisation, had about 120 staff working mostly in health and some small social services. And we began the writing of a new chapter that was no longer about fighting. It was no longer about grievance. It was a new chapter where we decided we would draw a line in the sand and we would face forward and we would be focused on the achievement of three things. Everything we could think of to enhance the well-being, the prosperity, and the mana of our people. I'm not sure what the translator is telling you about what mana means, but it's a Māori word that means roughly dignity, power, authority, and strength. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2.5 years, every day, trying to think of new ways to enhance the well-being, prosperity, and mana of Ngāti Toa, but not just Ngāti Toa. Our old people raised us to do everything we can to look after the visitors that come onto our land. We have a lot of visitors on our land, a lot of Pacifica people. I'm not sure if we have lots of New Caledonians, but we have lots of manuhiri or matapule on our lands. And so we also try hard to look after them. Our strategy is simple. And the symbol of that strategy is that wakahaurua on the ground in the middle of this room. The wakahaurua is the double-hulled canoe. Our strategy is to paddle or sail our own waka. I'm very grateful for George and his government and all their good ideas and help. Kia ora for that. But we're not counting on them or anybody else. To be honest, we don't have any good experiences of counting on anybody else. So our strategy is simple. We will row or paddle or sail our own waka. But it is a waka haurua with two hulls. And that's because we look for anyone who has the same ngākau, the same heart as us, the same values, the same vision. And when I meet people like that, they're my new best friend. This is why Vaimua is one of my new best friends, and John, because same vision, same values, same heart. So that's our strategy. We're not looking for permission. We're not looking for anything. We're going to sail our own waka with our brothers who want to work with us. That's it. And I'm going to tell you about what's happened in the last 2.5 years doing that. So the kaupapa or topic of this symposium is housing. But there's a logical problem with focusing narrowly on housing. And it's been alluded to by our president and by Waimua already. And it is, of course, that while it is essential, it doesn't actually produce the well-being entirely. Now that's a challenge. So we're going to talk about that. Ngāti Toa's approach to this multifactorial problem, and I don't know how you say that in French, but I'll try to explain what I mean. We're having some technical difficulties. Hang on. Kapai. Thank you, Charlotte. So, well-being arises out of a number of things that have to be present in a person's life for them to experience what we in our language call mauri ora. Mauri is the essential life force that flows through all things. And ora is wellness. And so when a person is experiencing, and a family or whānau is experiencing mauri ora, their spirit is enlightened, their minds are alert and inquiring, their body is strong, free of pain, and the relationships in life are nurturing and mutually beneficial. When that is in place, then you have mauri ora. Ngāti Toa's vision is not to build houses. Ngāti Toa's vision is to enhance and achieve the mauri ora of Ngāti Toa and of all the people who live on our whenua, the visitors who live in our community, particularly those who are poor and who need it most. How do we do that? We are creating an integrated ecosystem of support, and it has two categories of endeavor, two categories of actors, of people. The one that is the largest and obvious is those who have professional skills and responsibilities. We have, within our iwi and our own runanga, we have our own health services. We have 5 primary care or community general practice clinics. We have a targeted youth one-stop shop service for looking after the rangatahi or the young people, because they are a unique group of people themselves. We have addiction and mental health services. We have educational services. We have our own employment services, vocational education services, etc., etc. And we have significant housing-related services as well. Our vision is to increasingly grow the portfolio of that ecosystem of services and to increasingly integrate them so that they operate as a whole, because that's how we live our lives, as a whole. And to enable any door to be the right door to access all the need that the whānau or family may have, and not have to go away and come back and go away and come back, etc. The second category of actors or stakeholders in our mauri ora ecosystem are the friends, the whānau, hapu iwi, the family members who know and love and care most about my people and our community. Now, why are they essential to being in this ecosystem? When all of us go through our lives roller coasters, the first people we always look to for help are those who know and love us most. And most times, that's enough. Their support, their love, their guidance is enough to help us get back on our feet and away we go. But unfortunately for many of our families who are impoverished, who are struggling for generations, right? Those family members and friends are overburdened. They're missing. They're struggling themselves. And so, when our people turn to them, it's not always available to the same degree that's needed. So what are we doing? We are intentionally reaching out to the family network as well, to strengthen them, to engage them, to inform them so that they can, and to leverage their power to be a part of achieving the modiora of their whole whānau, their whole family. This is our strategy. And connecting back to what George was saying, we've turned to our government agencies and we've said, we've already paid our taxes. We don't intend to draw on our intergenerational assets to do your job, right? So we also don't want to be signing up 80 contracts for health and for housing and for, no, we don't want to play that game anymore. What we will agree with you is, what's the baseline of well-being today? Let's agree the target and a medium to long term. And then let's agree a budget holding pool of collective funds. We will be accountable for it. We will report every year the gains we're making. But we will decide where to allocate those resources because we're closest to the need. We're best placed to understand every single day where those resources should be prioritized. And you know what our governments are saying back to us? What George said. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, we know it's a good idea. So that's our modiora integrated social service ecosystem. The second category, which I'll allude to a bit later, is our ecosystem of commercial investment. And there's a part of it, because it's a priority right now, that is focused on two key things. Land reacquisition. I say reacquisition because it was all ours and we're just getting it back. And secondly, on businesses that are integrated to deliver homes, communities to our people. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So, to take you through our story, that was just the introduction. Sorry for that, it was going to be a bit long. But to tell you our story, I want to cover off how we approached it so that and the lessons we learned. And hopefully that's of some use to you. So the first and most important thing was we wanted to be clear. What's the problem that we're trying to address? What's its scope, right? Then to understand what else is in the environment that we are going to have to take into account as we plan for our response to that problem set. Thirdly, it was vital that we understand what our people actually think and need. I'm not the king of Ngāti Toa, I'm the servant of Ngāti Toa. And so it is vital that we engage with our people and understand what their thinking is. Then, having listened, we formed a vision, a strategy, a plan, and we've been working hard for 2.5 years, and I'll share with you these elements in my story. Well, you can't read that very well, but I'll just explain to you what we did to understand and define our problem. The Victorian government in the 1990s was spending about $100 million a year on business cases. And so to prevent that waste, and most of them never actually were implemented, and so to prevent that waste, they conceived a process called investment logic mapping, which is a workshop where you'd get together 7, 8, 9 people who are the most knowledgeable about the problem, who are the people who will be the ones who say yes to the money, and or who have the most influence in responding to the problem that you're trying to fix. So we ran a facilitated investment logic workshop to define what are the problems that we're trying to address. What is an ideal future state? What would that look like that would address those problems? What would be the benefits if that ideal future state was created? What would happen? What would change? And then lastly, you discuss, in order to achieve those benefits and that ideal future, what do we need to change today? So that's what we did. I recommend it to you, and I'm happy to talk to you about it later. And we came up with our own investment logic map. It's one page, and it has all the essential ideas that answers to those questions. Okay. So with that clarity in mind, we knew what game we were in. We knew who were the actors who had a role to play. We then turned our minds to understanding in greater degree what was going on nationally and locally. I won't speak much to this next two slides other than to say Aotearoa, like the rest of the world, has been struggling for quite some time with housing prices, constraints on the availability of land, the difficulty of complex regulation and laws, stuff you know all about. So I won't go on about it, other than to say this, in Aotearoa, it's got really out of control bad. So at the moment, I think it's about a home costs about 10 or 11 times the average income of a person, which is one of the worst in the whole world. It's really stupid. This local context was important for us to understand the people in our community, not just Ngāti Toa, but all particularly in Purerua. I'm from Purerua, which is not far from Wellington. And we have, it's about a city of about 65,000 people, mostly Pacifica and Māori. So it was important for us, if we were going to be implementing a strategy for improved housing, we needed to understand not only about ourselves, but our wider city and community. So we did that work as well. We then landed on a model of thinking about housing, which in the literature is called community-focused housing models. But the key points that I just wanted to emphasize, which resonated with our thinking, our values, was the points I've mentioned on this slide here. The vital importance that the problem to date of ever-growing values has forced ordinary families out of the market. They can no longer afford it. We must break that cycle and come up with a solution that provides perpetual affordability forever. Secondly, we live on as guardians of this land, of our Mother Earth, and we're very tired of the way that the Western people think about that and what they do to our mother. And we have no intention whatsoever of allowing that to continue in any way in connection with our building of homes and communities going forward. So sustainability and everything to do with that. We're not building houses, whānau, we're building communities. This is an important difference. Yesterday when we were up north, we saw a beautiful example where the Kanak people up there have started to build a village with that same idea in mind. It's the people, it's the community, not the house. The next one down the corner is that the housing is just part of an integrated range of support, our Māori order thoughts, quality of design. Now this is an important one for me. Ngāti Toa has no intention of its people being second-class citizens and living in second-class anything. And we intend for all of our Pacifica whānau and everyone else in our city and our tribal boundaries to similarly live in first-class houses, healthy, quality. Now, that's going to be a good trick. I'll tell you how we're going to do it in a minute. Oh, the last one is very important. As we are going about our business of building communities, there is a vital indirect benefit opportunity by involving our people preferentially. What I mean by that is what Ngāti Toa does every time it looks to employ. Every time we look to procure goods or services, we first look to our own people. We always hire, we always buy off our own people first. And if there's no one in the market for that role or for that supply, then we look to our other Māori people. No, we look to our Pacifica community. No, we look to everybody else who lives in Porirua. No, well, then we'll do with anybody. But we are intentional in getting a circular economy benefit flowing, right, of involving our people so that they build skills, build their businesses. This is another dimension of our model. Lastly, as part of our research phase of understanding the context, we looked at the full spectrum of housing that is available in Aotearoa. I don't know if all of this is available here in New Caledonia, but the spectrum includes at one end emergency housing. So some emergency happens and somebody is out on the street, they have somewhere to live. That's what we call in Aotearoa emergency housing. Then there is public housing or social housing, which usually is supplied by the government, paid for by the government, and has an income-related threshold. I know you have that here. Then there is affordable rental, which of course is usually supplied by the market, usually in the NGO or charitable part of the market, and often in partnership with the government. So it's a private rental, but more affordable. Then there's market rental, which is self-explanatory. Then affordable ownership, and then market ownership. Now, the reason that I've belabored this range is that all of them have a segment of the community that is a good fit. And just thinking in a binary way of social or market, it doesn't make sense, didn't make sense to us. And so we wanted to understand the spectrum of options and be thoughtful about their provision in connection with the spectrum of need that we observed in the community. So, what did our people tell us? Oh, just quickly. So, our traditional way of living, like here, we call it papakainga, where we love to live together with our families on our land. There's nothing new about that. We can go on. But there was a concept which we discovered, encountered in our discovery phase of looking at the context, which was a game changer. And I will elaborate on this in a minute. We had already recognized that we had no intention of selling our land again. When we reacquire our land, never going to sell it again unless there is some compelling reason. And even then, we will make sure it always has a right of first refusal on it, so we always get a chance to buy it back. But our default is to keep it. So how do our people live on the land if we don't sell it? And we already decided that the way we would reconcile that is we would lease it to them. And then we encountered this concept of a community land trust, which is an existing model, which in short means you buy your land, you put it in a trust so that it can never be alienated. The trust is governed, in our case, by our iwi, and the beneficiaries of that trust are all our iwi members. And any iwi member can, if they want, live on that land. And they can lease a portion of that land, a little or a lot, depending on their family and their needs. And they lease it in perpetuity, forever. And it's at a fixed cost, so it never changes over time. And I'll elaborate on that shortly too. So we loved that, and we decided, yep, that's what we're going to do. So we spoke to our people, our whānau, our families. And just moving quickly through that, here's what we heard. Our iwi are united in being determined that no iwi member is homeless, that no matter where or what else is going on, they can have a healthy and affordable home to live in. No surprise. Second, it's our preference as a community, because we have big families, we want to have a minimum of 3 to 4 bedrooms in our homes. Okay. Our preference is for homes that are standalone homes, not high density. That's not our preference. We know that's not always possible. We understand that. But our people told us they would like to live in their own home, surrounded by their relations, their grandparents and cousins and like that, how we grew up. Lastly, it's vital that we get to live not only on our land, but close to our moana, our sea, our harbour, to our bush, our forest, to one another, and our marae, which is the centre of our culture, our marae. We want our own. None of this is a surprise, of course, but that's what they told us. Then what we did was, okay, having listened, we got some clever people, and we pulled together a vision of what it might look like at home in Takapuahia. Now, before I roll this brief video clip, I just want to describe to you what you're looking at. The sea on the left-hand side is Porirua Harbour. It was always the food basket for my people. And our village is on the right-hand side, or everything that's in white is existing today. And my people have lived on the edges of this harbour for 200 years. Now, next to it, you'll see a road that's now running up through the harbour. Just before I was born, the local municipality built that road right through the middle of our harbour, not the middle, the edge of it, and ruined the food in that place. And the water you see on the right-hand side in the middle, that's actually not there. That's grass. Right now it's grass. But what I'm about to show you is our vision for the future for Takapuahia, which is the village that I come from. Now everything rolls, as I say, what we want to see is actually the water come back. What has happened over the last 60 years with the intensified housing in our city is that the waterways have been blocked up and piped up. What that's done is caused sedimentation, turned our beautiful harbour into a pond, made it shallow, killed the fish and the seafood that's in there. We want to daylight those waterways again. What you're seeing here is our vision for our future health services at the entrance of our village, community hall at the entrance of our village. These houses you're seeing there, those are the homes we want to build opposite our marae that will be for our old people and some of our young people. In the background, those white buildings there, this is the local polytech, or I don't know the word for polytech, that is on our land. My people like to play sports, so we dream big dream, and we're going to build ourselves our own stadium. We like to play basketball, so that's why there's a stadium, and our women are hockey players, so we want a hockey field as well. As we move back into Takapuahia, on the left-hand side, you'll see some hills. We'll go there in a second. But right in the middle of our pa, in the middle of Takapuahia, is where we have some clear land that we want to build an aged care facility for our old people, so that as they get old, they don't have to go somewhere else. They can be cared for at home, in our pa, in our village. There will be some new houses there for them in particular, because like you, we got lots of baby boomers, and I want them all to come home. This hill you see here, which is above us, was taken by the government in 1951. It's taken 70 years, but we've finally agreed to give it back. And what we intend to do is develop it up here and build homes for our families so that, once again, we can increase the numbers of people that are at home. The engineers that we had working with us, I told them we want to have our own energy. And so they had up the idea of the windmills. We won't put windmills here. I don't want windmills over our houses. We got a better idea. But you'll see all of that land. This is what we now are reacquiring and will develop. And then lastly, in our vision, this house. So for Māori people, we have large house, a wharenui, a carved house. This one is a special house. Our vision is for it to be a healing house, a place where our people can go and have their hearts and souls and bodies healed, overlooking the beautiful land that our ancestors gave to us. This is our vision. And so we have decided as a people to begin with the end in mind, and that's it. Kia ora. Dream is but it's a good dream. So, thank you. So now we'll get down to what actually has been happening. We've done lots of thinking, lots of talking, so what's actually happened? So on the screen you'll see our strategy. I'm not going to read through all of that. You fellas can read, I think, English. But I guess a few points that I will just focus in on. The first point there is, I mentioned at the beginning, our strategy of creating an ecosystem of vertically integrated businesses. What I mean by that is, as we reacquire land, in order to deliver houses, there needs to be some business that comes in and does the bulk earthworks work, that does the infrastructure, the pipes, the roads, the power. There then needs to be companies that supply the building supplies, the wood, the concrete, the steel. There then needs to be architects. There then needs to be builders who actually come in and do the work, etc., etc. What I mean by a vertically integrated ecosystem of businesses is our plan is for all of those businesses to be ours, either entirely or in partnership with somebody else with the same values and vision as us. Remember the wakahaurua? That's our model. So that's what we're doing. That's the first thing I would just emphasize. No, that'll do. We'll crack on. I'm taking too long. Kia ora. So, story so far. We have been blessed in only 2.5 years to either reacquire or have in the pipeline for concluding enough whenua, enough land to house our mokos, our grandchildren's grandchildren. So this has been a great blessing. Secondly, we have established our community land trust model that is now a legal and functioning reality. Thirdly, we have been blessed to partner with the New Zealand government in standing up Ngāti Toa's own community housing provider. We call it Te Ahuru Mōwai, or Sheltered Haven. This is a partnership I'll talk about in a minute. Fourthly, we have acquired a number already of construction-related businesses in partnership with others. We have delivered already and are delivering financial literacy training to support our community, our people, to become ready to get mortgages and to own their own homes. And then lastly, we have already reached relationships with all of the main banks in Aotearoa. They will all lend mortgage funding, no problem, to any Ngāti Toa person who is going to build a home on Ngāti Toa whenua. And I'll explain how. So that's what we've done. So the first example of that was we was just an opportunity to buy an existing set of properties that a local property developer had built and sold 8 years ago, and then subsequently had half of them developed some leaky problems. Water from under the ground was coming into half of them. And the local municipality, the local council, had to buy them back because they approved them and they were faulty. So we bought these beautiful apartments from the local council, the local municipality, for a good price. And we have been and are in the process of renovating them and placing them into a community land trust to sell them to our people. I won't go over the detail of that. Short version is, we bought them. We've got Ngāti Toa businesses that are owned by our relations, as well as some owned by ourselves. That are those scaffolding, that's my nephew, that's his business. The builders that are working in there, they're all Ngāti Toa people doing the remediation work to get these homes ready to sell again. Once they're all ready, in about a year's time, when they've been fully refurbished inside and out, we'll then sell them, there's 24 of them, to our iwi members. We have 125 iwi members on our housing register. So there's 125 families in our iwi who've said they need housing assistance. Those who meet the criteria will be given the opportunity to buy these homes. In New Zealand, at market value, these homes would sell for nearly $1 million each, $1 million New Zealand dollars each. Our people will buy them for about half that. Now that's still a lot of money, but Ngāti Toa will supply 10% of the deposit. They will supply 10% because it's compulsory in New Zealand to retirement savings. We call it Kiwi Saver, not very imaginative, but there you go. And they can use that retirement saving for their deposit. The iwi supplies 10%, we supply 10%, and then the rest is paid for by the mortgage. And as I said, the banks are all happy to lend to Ngāti Toa families for a simple reason. Any Ngāti Toa person who owns a home on our iwi land, they can sell to any other iwi member, no problem. But if no other iwi member wants to buy it, then the runanga will always buy it, every time. So the banks are all happy, of course, because it's our balance sheet that they're really staring at. They're not worried so much. The affordability needs to be there, but that's, anyway, that's good. That's the view from those houses. It's beautiful, like here in New Caledonia. Okay, the second significant acquisition we have executed a year ago, settled it in March this year. In Porirua, on the edge of our city, a private commercial developer had been underway for about 5 years, about a 65-hectare commercial property development. And we basically reached a deal with them where we bought it off them. It's a 6-stage housing development. Stages 1 and 2 were done. That's what you see on the left. They're a bit ugly, but that's what they built. And so now stages 3 through 6 is what will come. And we will design and build our own beautiful community on the about 42 hectares of land left in that development. And so this will be there's room on there for about between 700 and 800 houses. And we only have 120 families in our iwi that needs a house. So there's going to be plenty for the Pasifika whānau and other Māori whānau in Porirua to live on Ngāti Toa land. This is a third acquisition we just executed. At the back of Porirua, these beautiful farmland that was used to be owned by the New Zealand government, Landcorp Farm, another stink name. But anyway, we bought that off the New Zealand government. And it's 170 hectares, about 70 hectares we're going to use for a solar farm. in order to generate solar energy for our community, to lower the cost of energy. That will be a Ngāti Toa solar farm in partnership with an Australasian company. The other 100 hectares of that farm will be for us one day to live on, our mokopuna. This is a very special acquisition of whenua for Ngāti Toa. If you ever meet a Ngāti Toa person and they introduce themselves, the first thing they'll say is, ko whitireia te maunga. That whitireia is our sacred mountain. This was illegally dispossessed 150 years ago. We have finally reached agreement with the New Zealand government, the arms of the New Zealand government, for the return of that land. There will be a lot of tears on the day that this land comes back to us. So very quickly, I mentioned our community housing arm. So in Aotearoa, there is a government department that provides social housing called Kāinga Ora, or Healthy Homes. Yeah, anyway. And so in Porirua, in the east of Porirua, there are 2,200 social homes, Kāinga Ora homes. In the west of Porirua, where Ngāti Toa live primarily, where Takapuahi is, there is 924. And we reached agreement with the New Zealand government for them to transfer the tenancy management, not the ownership, just the tenancy management of those 924 homes to Ngāti Toa. Why did we do that? Two reasons. First and most importantly, we know we can do a better job looking after the families that live in those houses. Simple as that. I'll give you a practical example. There was a fire one day, not long after we took over looking after these homes. Someone left something on the stove, burnt the house down. Immediately our people came out, took them into our homes, fed them, looked after them, and I rang up Kāinga Ora officials in the government and I said, what would you fellas have done when that had happened? Yeah, not that. So we look after our community better, and that's the first reason. The second reason why we've done it is we negotiated an opportunity over the next 50 years to buy all of those houses and all of that whenua so that we can improve them and, where appropriate, build new houses that we will own ourselves as well on that whenua. That's why. That's the western side of Porirua, where all of those blue is those houses. Just quickly to conclude, what else have we done? We acquired a wholesale building supply company in Porirua, and we just settled the acquisition of a second, one of the largest in Wellington. So now Ngāti Toa is one of the largest wholesale building supply owners in the Wellington region. Now here's a good thing that happens because of that. Aside from our iwi being able to go in there now and get a good deal on everything, that's good. All the commercial people in our region and all the government people, who do you think they come and talk to about getting their building supplies from? Yeah, that's right, from Ngāti Toa. And so that's a win-win. See, win-win for us, for the community, and for them. That's a good one. This is another example I heard someone else talking about. So we have our own vocational education arm. We have over 100 apprentices, Ngāti Toa, young men and women who we have supported into jobs and apprentice and trained them with the support, I'll quickly add, of the New Zealand government so that they can get employment and grow as we do. Lastly, second to last, we acquired one of the largest building maintenance companies in New Zealand. We took a half share. It was a bit big, cost a bit much, but we bought half of it. They're very good people, Scottish people from down the South Island. Just quickly on that, we only do business with people, I said, who have the same values and vision as us, Because you can't do good business with bad people, whānau. Don't try. Don't try. Find good people and only do business with them. And they can look like you, or they can be from Ireland or Scotland, and probably even France. But find good people first, then do business. So we do business with this group of people, and we are using that to now stand up our own building company called, again, unimaginatively, Toa Homes. So this is our own building company, no surprises, employing our people and other builders who want to subcontract to us. Yep. This is just a quick example of a partner. So we don't own this company. They came to us. I thought they were dreamers how much money they wanted. So we didn't buy them, but we reached an agreement with them to give our people preferential pricing access to their product. It's a modular home. It's very quick. It's very efficient. It's a good one. But lastly, and this is the housing product I'm most excited by, and this is the second to last slide, so nearly done. So we were blessed to be connected with a North American company, and the man who invented the technology that was operating in North America, and it's called Build Smart. And what we have done is, in partnership with some local people, is we have taken that North American technology and brought it to New Zealand and localized it for our standards, for our materials. That's mostly it, standards and materials. Now, the materials bit is important because we own our own forest, but we don't own the mill. We have partners, Australians and Americans, who run a really awesome mill. Sorry to the whānau, you saw your mill yesterday, sorry about that, but we've got a mill, and we access the wood from that mill into our supply chain. And this enables us to control what is actually in our homes so that it is green and sustainable and ecologically, but also, just as important, that it is affordable and healthy. And the great thing about this, if you go to the last slide, Charlotte, what he's a Canadian who invented it. What he did was, his idea was to take a house and to break it into like Lego blocks. I don't know if you fellas know what Lego is, but like the components. And this is the system here. And you can build virtually any design, as long as it's got right angles, as long as it's not a circle. You can build anything with those. And so in our factory, all we make is those. And then as our people come up with their ideas of their houses, this big, whatever, then the computer system says, well, you need 8 of those, 20 of those, 40 of those, and 6 of those. We take them, put them in the container, send it to them, and they can assemble it. You don't need a builder. It's like Lego. You need a qualified builder to sign off that it's met standards and it's all correct, but just ordinary, as long as you're handy, you can assemble it. You need a foundation, so that has to meet standard. But anyway, you get the picture. This is very cool. Now, the power of this approach, which I'm very excited about, as you can tell, is it enables us to do 2 different kinds of building. We can produce at scale in a factory, pump them out, and that will lower the cost, average cost. Or we can hand this over to the families, wherever they might be, and they can do it themselves. And we like that, because that's self-determination. That's mana motuhake, right? That's our vision. Well, I'm sick of my voice, and I know you fellas are sick of my voice too, but that's what we've been up to for the last 2.5 years, whānau. And as I said to Vaimua when he came, we weren't planning to do anything but row our own waka. And we hope that, and I hope, that something that has been shared this morning is meaningful and helpful for you. Can I conclude with one thought? Yesterday when we went north, it was a long drive, but I'm glad we went. We passed a urupa, a cemetery, where hundreds of the sons of my land now lie in your land. And I'm very grateful that you care for them. My family are known for having soft hearts, but don't annoy us. I'm grateful that you look after them. But it's not the only connection that our people have. Waimua has reminded me that our people are people of the ocean. Yes, we're people of the land as well, but we're people of the ocean. Our story is a long one. The book is big, lots of chapters. The last few chapters haven't been too flash, but the one we're writing now is going to be awesome. And I'm very grateful to be reacquainted with my brothers here in this land. And a little or a lot, whatever Ngāti Toa can do to support the people of this land, you say, Ngāti Toa will come. If you want to come, we will look after you. And we'll share. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, a tēnā koutou. Huri noa, a tēnā rā tātou katoa. Ka huri.